Hi, class. My name is Gabriela Serrano, and this is my research project on Chapter 14 Upholstery Coverings. So, what are upholstery coverings? By definition, an upholstered item has an outer covering that surrounds and conceals a filling or stuffing. Thus, the coverings are textiles and fabrics used to cover furniture that has been padded or stuffed. These coverings serve for both functional, by keeping the filling and the stuffing inside, and decorative purposes by adding colors or patterns to the space. There's an extensive array of fabrics to choose from when upholstering furniture. Some are identified by specific fabric names that may be based on fabric content or on structural and appearance features. Today, polyester, cotton, and rayon are the most popular fibers for both residential and commercial use. Fabric performance depends on more than just fiber content. How it's made, how it's constructed, and how it's finished contribute to the overall performance of the fabric. So let's talk about backcoating. Backcoating is one of those things that's gonna affect the overall performance of the fabric itself. Backcoating is used to give structure and support to fabrics. It's used to prevent raveling of the yarns in the cutting process. It is used to prevent strike through as well. And strike through is when the adhesive used to keep the yarns and wraps and fillings together starts seeping through to the face of the fabric. And backcoating can also impart on flame retardancy and may be required to meet code requirements. So backcoating is an extremely important part of any fabric, and it should be taken into consideration when choosing the fabric for upholstering. So we're gonna talk about two major categories of upholstery fabrics. We have the flat weaves and we have the plain the not the plain weaves, the flat weaves and the pile weaves. So let's start with the flat weaves. Under flat weaves, we have the plain weaves, and under plain weaves, we have all these weaves that we're gonna talk about. So first we have chintz and taffeta. A chintz weave is a plain weave of cotton fabric produced in heavyweight for upholstery and lighter weight for window treatments. So chintz weave can be used for furniture as well as curtains. And this fabric can be printed or dyed in solid colors, and it is usually glazed. We also have taffeta, which is the predominant plain weave out of the two. And silk is the most beautiful, but polyester is the most popular, and it is made out of very fine, smooth yarn. So taffeta is a very delicate weave. Then we have basket weaves, which is a variation of plain weave. To make the cloth heavier, they use multiple yarns as one instead of just using one, and this is going to make the weave a lot sturdier. We have duck under basket weave, and this is a basket woven fabric often used in slip covers for furniture. Then we have the filling rib weaves. Under this, we have four other weaves. We have the rep, the fail, the ottoman, and the bengaline. The rep weave is rarely used for upholstery, it's mostly used for men's neckties, and they are very fine, small ribs. Whereas the ottoman, that's more used in upholstery because they are thicker and heavier ribs. Then we have twills. Twills are very popular in both residential and commercial uses. Different colors or sizes of warp and filling yarns are used to accentuate the visual diagonal of twill woven upholstery fabrics. So anything that's twill woven, it's going to be very easy to identify because it's going to have this very peculiar diagonal style to it. We have two weaves under twills. We have the houndstooth and the herringbone. The houndstooth would be the sample that we have here. That's when the pattern kind of looks like a broken checkered or like broken stars. And then we have the herringbone weave where it kind of looks more like zigzag lines running along the fabric. We have satins and satines. In satin, the face of the fabric is almost only warp yarns. This means this is going to be extremely delicate and very prone to basically getting destroyed. So it is rarely used in upholstering furniture. It's more used in like fashion and clothing. And then we have sateen, which is the complete opposite of satin. It would be the backside of satin, where the filling yarns dominate the face of the fabric. So right here we have like a small picture to show you, this would be the warps. So as you can see, they are mostly on the face. And then on sateen, the filling yarns, which are these going horizontally, are gonna be the ones that are exposed the most. So that's the difference between those. Then we have crepes and dobbies. The crepe weave is kind of like satin, whereas it's rarely used for upholstery. It's mostly used for clothing, but it's still a very beautiful fabric. Crepe weaves have a random or irregular interlacing pattern, as you can see here. These are samples of crepe fabrics. You can't really tell the direction of the yarns. They're just kind of irregular and bumpy. And that's what characterizes crepes. They are characterized by their crinkly, pebbly, rough surface. So then we have dobbies. Dobbies are simple weaves made up of combinations of various simple weaves in blocks. And these are also pretty easy to identify because they are usually made with a repeated small geometrical pattern. So then we have jacquards. This is like the widest category. A lot of fabrics fall into this category. Most fabrics that are not plain texture or pal fabric are simply referred to as jacquards. These fabrics are the most popular furniture coverings. Jacquard looms give freedom and allows for great versatility in patterning. That's how we can have these beautiful patterns like the one shown here. This would be an example of a damask, which is woven from one set of warp yarns and one set of filling yarns using only two weaves, which are exact inverses of each other. So you get this beautiful, like mirrored pattern that we see here. Traditionally, the patterns are focused on bases, flowers, or vines, as the example is showing here. There's flowers, leaves, vines, and all that good stuff. Then we have the brocade, which was developed as a less expensive alternative to embroidery. They are woven from one set of warp yarns and two or more sets of filling, and the filling is what would have what would make the raised surface of the face of the fabric. So it would look a lot like embroidery, where the design is kind of jumping out of the fabric itself. So then we have lisure or lisure. Don't really know how to say that word, but it was developed as a less expensive version of brocade. And ironically, today, lisure is actually more expensive to make than brocade because it requires like a special mechanism that it's not as common today. Then we have brocatelle, which has a raised pattern with a distinctive puffy appearance. The larger fabric sample that's shown here, that would be the brocatelle. As you can see, the pattern does look puffy and looks like you could touch it and it's gonna like bump back. Then we have jacquard woven tapestry, where floral and picture-like motifs are typical, but geometrics and abstract designs are also popular and possible with this sort of tapestry. Then we have double cloth, where two distinctive fabric structures face each other, and there are areas when there's absolutely no interlacing in between. Then we have matelasse or matelasse, where a pocket structure is used to form motifs and the interlacing points are used to produce the appearance of quilting stitches. So this would be the smaller fabric sample shown here, where you could see it kind of looks quilted and the squares are like puffy. And that's what's going to differentiate matelasse from cloak, because in cloak, it doesn't have the stuffing. So it's going to be just flat squares instead of the puffy squares shown here. And the last fabric we have under jacquard would be lampas. This is a version of double cloth that was developed to simulate brocade. So it's kind of like a mix between brocade and double cloth. Now let's talk about knitting. Most knitted upholstery fabrics are flat structures produced by interlooping simple yarns with an interlock stitch that is resistant to running and snagging. And this interlock stitch is going to be what differentiates knitting from woven fabrics, and it's what makes it so resistant and so good for upholstering. These fabrics are simple and can't be varied by incorporating complex yarns. Instead, variety of knitted fabric is offered by specifying the use of the two colors of yarn, by using jacquard patterns, printed patterns, and cross-dyed effects. Knitted fabrics are more elastic and flexible than woven fabrics, so they are great when upholstering curved furniture. So that was it for the flat weave upholstery fabrics. Now we're gonna get into the pile weave upholstery fabrics. These fabrics are gonna be a lot more textured, and that's kind of how I found to differentiate between the two. So let's get to it. In some pile woven fabrics, pile yarns are uniformly distributed over the fabric surface. In others, pile yarns are strategically placed to create a specific pattern. So we have two filling file fabrics that are used in furniture coverings. I'm not excluding the others, but these are more common. So the first one's going to be corduroy. Here, the surface of the fabric is uniformly covered with densely constructed wales. And we have velveteen, which also has a uniform pile surface. Under velveteen, we could either have velvet or voided velveteen. Here's an example of a voided velveteen fabric. As you can see, some areas are velvet, some are voided, and it creates a very cool geometrical pattern. Next, we have velour, which is a deeper pile and more pronounced nap than velvet. It's kind of softer and plushier, so the equivalent is known as plush. It is also mostly composed of cotton. Then we have frisé, which is a fabric with a surface level. It's kind of small loops, kind of looks like small loops. And then we have grosse point, which has a level surface way more pronounced than frisé. The loops are larger, and that's why it's kind of easier to identify grosse point. And this fabric is commonly used in office chairs as well as transportation vehicles. Now let's talk about leather. Leather is very popular despite its price. It's still very popular when talking about upholstery. Leather is actually animal skin or an animal hide. So the difference between a skin and a hide is that skins are retrieved from small animals such as lambs, goats, and calves, and they usually don't exceed 9 square feet. Whereas hides are retrieved from larger animals such as deer, horses, and cattle, and these usually reach a maximum of 25 square feet. So the composition and structure of raw hides. Since leather comes from a live animal, there's a lot that goes to it. The raw hides are have three distinct sections. It has the epidermis, which is the outermost layer, the corium, which would be kind of like the middle layer. It's also the most gelatinous layer, and then we have the flesh layer. Grain markings on leather appear after all the hair is removed, and these are exposed pores. So when you see grain markings on leather, those are pores that have come to the surface after the animal was dehaired. The processing of raw hides is an involved procedure divided into four parts. So to actually turn a raw hide into leather that's usable for upholstery, it has to undergo four steps. The first of which is curing and cleaning. Then we have tanning, coloring, and finishing. So let's go over those a little more in depth. The first one would be curing and cleaning. This part of the process involves immersing your hide in salt. This process retards bacterial action and also removes gelatinous matter from the corium. Hides must be thoroughly cleaned, defleshed, and dehaired before they can go on to the next step, which is tanning. Tanning solutions were often made from tree bark, but this process would take very long. Therefore, they have created different tanning solutions that are more fast acting, and these are made from mineral substances. This part of the process makes the hide softer and more water resistant. So then we move on to coloring. And coloring helps camouflage any uneven color in the hide, or it can also add a popular color. So this is how you would get pink leather or blue leather. You could get those types of leather, or you could even a natural color by one of two steps. You could either do drum dyeing or surface dyeing. Drum dyeing is when you fill a vessel with a dye and then you submerge the leather in there and you allow it to absorb all that dye. And the other way to do it would be surface dyeing, which is when pigments are spread or brushed onto the surface. Once this is done and dry, you can move on to the finishing process, which may involve the application of lubricants and softening agents to increase the suppleness of leather. Resins and waxes may also be used to add a glazed finish, which is used a lot in upholstery. Once you're finished, you could have either one of three. You could get a full grain leather, top grain leather, or split leather. Full grain leather means the grain markings on the leather have not been touched and they have been left as is, as they came naturally. Top grain leather means the grain markings have been altered. This is usually done to add a more even look to the leather. And then split leather comes from the center part of the hide and usually has no grain markings whatsoever. So this is going to be really smooth looking leather. So under leather, we have suede. Suede is a leather fabric produced with the flesh side of the hide exposed. So instead of the epidermis side being on top, we flip it and we get the fleshy side, and that would be suede. This fabric, though, is rarely used in upholstery because it's very prone to crocking. Crocking means that the dye from one fabric is transferred to another fabric by rubbing or abrasion. So, for example, if you were to have some white jeans on and you would sit in a suede upholstered sofa of this color shown right here, it might transfer onto your jeans and you might get stained jeans. So that's why it's not really popularly used for upholstery. What they do use is simulated suede, which is made from polyester. To actually make polyester look like suede, it has to undergo two processes. The first one is flocking, which is an electrostatic machine, and then it undergoes sweating, which are sandpaper covered discs that are rubbed around the surface of the fabric in order to get this suede texture. So, fabric performance and performance guidelines. Any fabric must be inspected for imperfections or concerns about durability. Physically, the fabrics are tested on tear strength, breaking and elongation, burst strength, dimensional stability, abrasion resistance, and resistance to pilling. Before an upholstery fabric is ready for use, it must meet the recommended performance levels and it must be marked with its corresponding ACT symbols. The Association for Contract Textiles, ACT for short, has its own performance guidelines that help make the specification of woven textiles easier. So basically, any symbol that you see on a label means that fabric passed that test concerning that specific symbol. So, going more in depth and explaining this a bit more, these would be the ACT symbols that you would see on a label. Abrasion, the abrasion symbol would be the uppercase A or the lowercase case A. An abrasion tests how well the fabric can withstand rubbing against another fabric. So if your label has a uppercase A, it means your fabric withstood over 30,000 double rubs. If it has a lowercase a, it means it withstood over 15,000 double rubs. Then we have color fastness to light. This test measures the material's degree of resistance to the fading effects of light. So, how is color gonna fade when that fabric is exposed to natural sunlight? If it has that symbol, it means it's not gonna fade that much, if at all, and that symbol would be the sun in the middle of the other symbols. The flame to the left would obviously cover flammability, and this tests the fabric performance when exposed to specific sources of ignition. The artist's or painting palette would stand for the wet and dry crocking, which I mentioned a little bit before. This this tests measure the transfer of dye from one surface of a dyed printed fabric onto another surface by rubbing or abrasion. And then the star, the five-pointed star, means it covered the physical properties test, which covers multiple tests that assess the overall durability of the fabric. So once it's labeled with those symbols, the labeling laws apply to every fabric out there, be it for upholstery, for fashion, or for window treatments. According to the provisions of the Textile Fiber Productions Identification Act, TFPIA for short. Textile products must be labeled with generic fiber names, percentages of contents, name of producer, and country of origin. So as you can see here, we can see that this is labeled with 100% cotton, and it's from another country, so it's mostly in the other language. But the label must be a minimum of 2 inches times 3 inches, and it must be securely attached to the fabric. So like everything in life, everything requires maintenance, even upholstery coverings. Upholstery fabrics need to be routinely vacuumed and cleaned, as well as protective coverings, which should also be cleaned on a regular basis. Cushions should be rotated for equal use, just so that they don't get dented just on one side and they remain even throughout the whole life cycle of your furniture. And leather should be washed with warm water and light soap. Sorry. So let's talk about sustainability, which is becoming a very big and important subject. The upholstery business is not the best business for our planet because fabrics always come at a cost. Throwing away old textiles and replacing them for new ones is just another way to add waste to the landfills, especially if we throw away fabrics that takes years to decompose. However, with new generations come new views of life, and adding sustainability to every aspect of our lives has become a trend. One way to be sustainable is to use eco friendly, sustainable fabrics that are less harmful to the environment. Another way, and maybe the best way to be sustainable when upholstering, is to recycle old textiles and never throw away scraps that could be used for future projects. So, what makes a fabric sustainable? The source of the fiber, the resources required to create the fiber, the process of turning fiber to yarn. Does it require chemicals? How are those chemicals affecting the environment? The longevity of the fabric. How long is this fiber going to last? And the end life of the fabric is extremely important. This means how long is the fabric going to take to decompose? All these factors should be taken into consideration when labeling a fabric as sustainable. And these are the four most sustainable fabrics. There are more, but just to name a few, we have organic cotton, we have lending tencel, hemp, and scent suede, which is a vegan form of suede. So, why be sustainable? There's only one planet Earth, and if we destroy its ability to sustain life, our planet will become uninhabitable. Sustainability should be our responsibility. As interior designers, we have the power to manipulate and control any given environment. We should use this power to implement sustainable design and become instruments of beneficial change. So, during my research, I found some interiors designers dedicated to creating more sustainable furniture and more sustainable fabrics. So Rove Concepts is an interior design firm dedicated to creating sustainable furniture that is durable and luxurious. I'm going to play a short video so that you can see what Rove Concepts it's all about.
At Rove Concepts, we connect sustainability with design to create refined luxury. We seek inspiration in nature, pictures of infinite beauty, growing our desire to create a positive impact, reflected in our conscious materials that blend seamlessly in our curated designs. Our sustainable fabrics are cruelty-free, non-toxic, and tested for harmful substances. Made responsibly, our FSC certified wood products are ethically sourced to ensure no ecosystems are harmed. Our timeline speaks to our commitment to reducing our environmental impact. In 2019, we launched Aurora, our eco-friendly bedding collection. A luxurious alternative to cotton, our bamboo fabric uses 70% less water. In 2020, we introduced our vegan microfiber leather. This buttery, soft, water-resistant material is 5 times more durable than genuine leather. In 2022, we launched our pure Lurven linen fabric, an organic material that is 100% biodegradable and recyclable. Our sophisticated vegan Venice suede brings new life to reclaimed materials. Resembling natural suede, our vegan Venice suede is composed from 50% recycled polyester and is Oeko-Tex certified. As a company, we are focused on the future, which is why our products are designed to stand the test of time. We strive to make sustainable choices in how our products are designed, packaged, and transported. In 2023 onwards, we will roll out eco-friendly packaging and utilize electric delivery fleets across North America, committing to phasing out plastic from our furniture production and packaging within this decade. We believe our products should reflect sustainable solutions for today and tomorrow. At Rove Concepts, we create more than furniture. We create pieces that are good for you and good for the environment.
So that's Rove Concepts. I think they have a very beautiful selection of furniture and fabrics. So I was pretty inspired by all their work. So we're pretty much done with this research presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you were paying attention, you should be able to answer these questions. Is fiber the most important attribute to consider when selecting an upholstery fabric? What are the benefits to back coating? Knitted fabrics have specific uses in upholstery coverings. What are they? What are the differences between full grain leather, top grain leather, and split leather? And last but not least, what is the difference between satin and sateen? So these are my references. Thank you so much for paying attention, for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Have a great night, guys.